7 years ago, I was Aurora, a hopeful adventure guide with dreams of traveling the world. But that dream took an unexpected turn when I met Ethan, a charming and successful man. We fell in love quickly, got married, and I thought I had found my perfect life. One evening over dinner, Ethan shared exciting news: a job offer from a prestigious law firm in another city. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," he said, his excitement contagious. Though I was happy for him, my heart sank at the thought of leaving my job. Still, my love for Ethan outweighed my hesitation, and we moved to a spacious new house in the city. At first, it felt like an adventure, but as we settled in, Ethan's demeanor began to change. One day, he criticized the mess in our half-unpacked living room. "Work faster, I can't live like this," he demanded. Stunned, I dismissed it as stress from his new job. Over time, finding work for myself proved difficult. I suggested returning to adventure guiding, but Ethan dismissed the idea, insisting I focus on managing our home instead. "Your job is to make everything perfect for me," he declared. Reluctantly, I agreed, tears threatening to spill as I wondered where the man I married had gone. My days became a blur of chores and walking on eggshells around Ethan, whose temper grew sharper. Suggesting a housekeeper sparked an outburst about wasting money. "Your place is here," he snapped, and I tried to fit into the mold of the perfect housewife, hoping to rekindle our love. But Ethan's expectations only grew as his career flourished, and I faded into the background. One evening, as I prepared dinner, Ethan came home furious. "Shut up and get my food ready," he snapped. When he rejected the meal, he violently sent the plate flying, standing amidst broken dishes. I felt how trapped I was in a life far removed from my dreams. I cleaned the mess, tears held back as they had been countless times before. The next day, determined to do better, I cooked his favorite meal, only to realize I'd forgotten bread. When Ethan noticed, his temper erupted. "Are you this incompetent?" he bellowed, throwing the soup across the table. Hot liquid splashed on my leg, making me cry out in pain. "God, you're so stupid," he muttered, leaving me alone with the mess. As I cleaned, a stark realization hit me: I had lost myself. The following morning, I confronted him. "Ethan, I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce." He laughed coldly, his words chilling. "If you leave me, I'll ruin you. You'll have nothing, no money, no reputation. You'll end up on the streets." His threats shook me, but deep down, I knew I couldn't stay. Though I didn't leave immediately, I began documenting his abuse, recording conversations, saving messages, and writing down incidents. If I were to escape, I needed evidence. As Ethan's career soared, he decided to host a celebration at our home, demanding I prepare everything from scratch. Exhausted after days of preparation, I barely noticed when Ethan offered me a glass of wine. "You look like you need this," he said, his tone uncharacteristically kind. The wine tasted strange, but I brushed it off, blaming my fatigue. Moments later, dizziness overtook me. I collapsed in the bedroom, consciousness slipping away. When I woke, sunlight streamed through the windows, leaving me groggy and disoriented. Downstairs, I found Ethan's mother, Victoria, scowling. "You ought to be ashamed," she sneered. Confused, I asked what happened. "You got drunk and embarrassed Ethan in front of everyone," she spat. The events of the night before began to piece themselves together: the strange wine, Ethan's untouched glass, my sudden collapse. "He drugged me," I realized with growing horror. Victoria's continued berating only confirmed my suspicion. Ethan was sabotaging my reputation, setting the stage to discredit me if I ever left. That day marked a turning point. I knew I couldn't stay silent any longer. The road to freedom wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to reclaim my life and my voice. I bought a new phone and secretly began recording everything: Ethan's drunken outbursts, his late-night cleaning orders, and every harsh word or threat. One recording, in particular, was painfully significant. It was my birthday, and I had prepared a special dinner, clinging to the faint hope of a peaceful evening. Ethan arrived late, reeking of alcohol. As he entered the kitchen, I discreetly pressed record on my hidden phone. "What's all this?" he slurred, eyeing the carefully set table. "It's my birthday, Ethan. I made dinner," I said gently. He laughed cruelly. "Your birthday? Who cares? Look at you, you don't deserve a celebration." His words hit me hard, but I kept the phone recording as he ranted and then swept the plates off the table, sending food splattering across the floor I had just cleaned. Another time, in the dead of night, Ethan woke me at 2:10 a.m. "Get up," he hissed, pulling me out of bed. "The house is filthy, clean it now." 4 hours. I scrubbed every surface while Ethan followed, critiquing me harshly. My phone captured it all, his relentless demands and my weary compliance. These recordings became my secret arsenal, solid proof of the abuse I endured. Each file was carefully archived, a symbol of both my suffering and my hope for eventual freedom. Despite whispers and disdainful stares from Ethan's friends, I maintained the facade of a devoted wife while secretly plotting my escape. Our wedding anniversary approached, and though history had taught me to expect disappointment, a faint hope lingered. On the night of the anniversary, Ethan returned home jubilant. "I've reserved a table at the finest restaurant in town," he announced, suggesting we celebrate. Hesitant, I agreed. Before leaving, Ethan handed me a glass of lemonade he had prepared. His smile was unsettling, failing to conceal the deceit in his eyes. Intuition screamed caution, so I feigned sipping the drink and discreetly poured it into a nearby plant when he stepped away. As we drove to the restaurant, a creeping drowsiness overcame me. Struggling to stay alert, I soon found myself semi-conscious, being dragged from the car. Through blurred vision, I saw Ethan looking down at me with scorn. "This is where you belong," he sneered, throwing my purse into the darkness. Before driving off, I was left in an unsafe neighborhood, the echo of distant gunshots intensifying my fear. Despite the peril, I rallied my courage and spotted the flickering neon sign of a nearby convenience store. Clattering heels on the cracked pavement, I rushed inside, startling the clerk. "Please, I need help. May I use your phone?" I implored. The clerk, whose name was Maya, regarded me with a mix of concern and suspicion. Quickly, she locked the door for safety and handed me her phone. With trembling hands, I called my friend Sadie, who was horrified to hear where I was. "Ethan left me here," I said urgently. "Can you come get me?" "I'm on my way," she assured me. As I waited, Maya's kindness provided a balm for my battered spirit. "You may have saved my life tonight," I told her gratefully. When Sadie arrived, I tried to give Maya an expensive ring Ethan had once gifted me as a token of gratitude, but she refused. "Keep it, honey," she said gently. "Use it as a reminder of your strength and start anew." Her simple act of humanity reignited my belief in kindness and gave me the courage to take the next step. As Sadie drove me away, she looked at me with resolve. "It's time you stood up for yourself." "But how?" I murmured, feeling powerless. "He holds all the cards, all the connections." "Not all," Sadie replied firmly. "I know someone in TV. It's time the world heard your story." The next few days were a whirlwind. Sadie's contact, a TV producer, secured me a slot on a widely viewed talk show. As I stepped onto the brightly lit stage, the compassionate host greeted me warmly. "Aurora, thank you for joining us today. Can you share your story?" With a deep breath, I recounted years of torment, manipulation, and harrowing incidents. The audience's reactions ranged from shock to empathy. "Why speak out now?" the host asked. "Because silence isn't an option anymore," I declared, my voice filled with newfound strength. "There are countless women suffering quietly, thinking they're alone. I want to tell them they're not." The show resonated deeply, sparking a wave of support, but amidst the positive messages, one chilling text stood out. It was from Ethan. "You'll regret this, you lying scum. I'll destroy you." I showed Sadie the message. Her eyes blazed with determination. "He's just sealed his fate. We've got him now." In the days that followed, my life transformed. Legal consultations and interviews with women's rights groups filled my time. One morning, I received an unexpected call. "Is this Aurora?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "I'm Emery Reeves, a family lawyer. I want to help with your case," she explained. "I appreciate it, but I can't afford an attorney," I said hesitantly. "You misunderstand," Emery interjected. "My firm will represent you pro bono. We've been looking for a way to challenge Ethan Peterson for a long time. Your case might just be the key." It turned out Ethan had made enemies in high places, and my case was an opportunity to expose him. As the divorce proceedings began, Ethan retaliated viciously, painting me as a vindictive, unstable alcoholic. His mother, Victoria, tearfully testified against me, recounting fabricated incidents to tarnish my credibility. But I had my secret weapon, evidence. As Emery reviewed my recordings, her confidence grew. "This is exactly what we need, Aurora," she said, "not just to win your divorce, but to expose Ethan for who he truly is." The battle was far from over, but for the first time, I wasn't fighting alone. This was no longer just about my freedom, it was about justice. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Ethan's fabrications filled the air, making my stomach churn. Beside me, Emery squeezed my hand and whispered, "Don't worry, we're just getting started." When our turn came, Emery transformed into a force to be reckoned with. She methodically played Ethan's abusive recordings, displayed his threatening texts, and outlined his escalating aggression. "And now," Emery announced, "I'd like to call Sadie Thompson to the stand." Sadie described the night she picked me up from the dangerous neighborhood Ethan had abandoned me in, her testimony reinforcing my version of events. Ethan's attorney leapt to his feet. "Objection. Hearsay," he barked, but the judge waved him off. "Overruled. Continue, Miss Thompson." Emery then called Maya, the store manager, who recounted the state I was in when I sought refuge in her store. She looked terrified, Maya testified, and I locked the door because I was afraid for her safety. With every witness, Ethan's composure cracked further. His face twisted in anger as Emery presented the next bombshell, a toxicology report. "Your Honor," she said confidently, "this report confirms long-term exposure to sedatives consistent with Mrs. Peterson's claims of being drugged by her husband." The courtroom erupted into murmurs. Ethan shot to his feet, yelling, "She's lying, you can't trust this." The judge slammed his gavel. "Mr. Peterson, control yourself, or I will hold you in contempt." As the evidence mounted, the atmosphere shifted, doubt gave way to shock, and even some of Ethan's friends looked horrified. The judge called a recess to review the evidence. On our way out, I caught Ethan's eye and saw, for the first time, fear. When court resumed, Judge Harris delivered the verdict with gravity. "After thorough review of all evidence, this court rules in favor of Mrs. Aurora Peterson." A collective gasp echoed through the courtroom. Tears welled in my eyes as the judge continued. "Mr. Peterson is ordered to pay alimony, forfeit half of all shared assets, and compensate for emotional distress. Additionally, he is responsible for all legal fees incurred in this case." Ethan erupted. "This is ridiculous. I'll fight this." "Mr. Peterson," the judge said sternly, "be grateful the evidence presented spared you criminal charges. One more outburst, and I'll hold you in contempt." The judge then turned to me. "Mrs. Peterson, a restraining order will also be issued. Mr. Peterson is forbidden from contacting you by any means." Relief washed over me, and for the first time in years, I felt free. In the weeks that followed, I moved into a modest but welcoming apartment, leaving behind the suffocating cage of my old life. However, Ethan's harassment persisted. He used mutual friends to convey threats, and his car was often spotted near my home. One evening, over coffee, a friend expressed her concerns. "He won't stop, will he?" she asked. I nodded. "You're right. It's time I took control." Ethan had never changed his social media strategist passwords. Underestimating me completely, I began posting our court documents, recordings, and my story on his accounts. The backlash was immediate and devastating for Ethan. His employer distanced itself from the scandal, forcing him to resign, and his clients abandoned him. When Ethan discovered what I'd done, he showed up at my apartment, shouting threats. I recorded everything and called the police. He was promptly arrested for violating the restraining order. Watching him being taken away, I saw the remnants of the man I once loved, broken by his own actions. Months later, I learned Ethan had moved to another state, attempting to restart his career, but his tarnished reputation followed, making it difficult for him to regain footing. Meanwhile, my journey took an unexpected turn. A local organization that helps women escape abusive relationships offered me a job. Eager to transform my pain into purpose, I accepted. 1 year later, I stood before a group of women, sharing my story. As I spoke, I saw hope reignite in their eyes. Helping others became not just a job, but my calling. Among the women was Eden, whose experience with an abusive husband mirrored my own. Over weeks, we crafted a safety plan for her. When she finally left him, her relief mirrored the gratitude of many others I had supported. "Thank you, you saved my life," she whispered, her embrace leaving a deep impact on me. The organization's growing reputation led to invitations for me to speak at universities, shelters, and even a TEDx event. My voice, once silenced, now resonated with countless others. During this time, I began writing a book, revisiting my darkest moments. The process was painful, but healing. When my book was published, it resonated widely, climbing bestseller lists and sparking national conversations. In a memorable interview, when asked if I had any regrets, I paused before replying. "I regret the years I spent trapped in fear, but I don't regret the path that brought me here. Every hardship I endured has shaped me into someone who can now stand up and help others find their strength." Today, I continue to empower others, knowing my story is still unfolding. Each new day brings opportunities to grow, to heal, and to inspire. The woman who once lived in silence has become a voice for the voiceless, a beacon of hope for those still trapped in shadows.